You do,
Where you
Bobby?
guys?
I do.
Where you guys? Where you guys finding the 99 at? Where are you guys seeing that?
When you
When you go-
minimize the room, Edward, you'll see at the
Yeah.
top your messages with the 2 chat bubbles, and then next to it is a bell with a number over it. That bell is your notifications, and mine says 99, and it sounds like so does Holidays.
And it has for several months.
No, but I don't see it.
Yeah, that because
I,
yeah, they've fixed it on well, maybe because you're Android, maybe there's a different experience. But several months ago, it started before Justin was let go, and they didn't really have an answer for it. And they said obviously it was low on the totem pole of things they had to deal with, but it would be taken care of. So I asked somebody the other day, "Do you still have that 99?" It was Kate, and she said, "No, mine's gone." And I'm like, "Oh, well, mine's still there." But I'm glad to hear, Bobby, yours is still there, because I was wondering if it was a me problem or if it's just a chatter problem.
Right. Hey,
well, I don't. Mine
Edward,
says 12.
Oh, yours says 12? Really?
Yeah.
Wow, that's interesting. So yours is functioning properly. Yeah, it might be what Holiday said, because I'm on an iPhone as well.
Yeah, mine says 12. And Android, they're trying to catch it up, so I don't know.
Hey, Edward, can I share something with you real quick before you start up?
Of course, go ahead.
All right. So I just want to let you know something. I have a feeling you and I are going to be collaborating or working together in some way on something.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean it'll be a joint project, but I have a feeling we are going to work together. I don't know what it is yet, but I want to share something with you because I think this might be potentially part of it. I'm about to expand my Your Thriving Legacy program to include a new project whereby somebody who doesn't have tech skills, doesn't know how to record video, edit video, organize things, can do a virtual interview with me as their coach and their interviewer. And I will interview them with questions about their life and get the most authentic feedback. So instead of AI, kind of interpreting and translating what your life was all about based on things you said or done in your life, this is authentically you. It would be something like a Zoom call. And I would basically interview the person, get all that video, and then take that and chop it up into separate videos, whether they are videos for a particular person in their life who matters to them, whether they're videos for a particular milestone in somebody's life that might arrive. And this idea came because I have a friend whose father is getting really bad news about his cancer. And he said, I would love to do something like Your Thriving, Your Legacy kit for my father, but he just doesn't have the energy or the time. And I feel like time is running out. And I said, well, I could interview him. I could talk to him about all those things, and I could just record it and I'll put it together for him. Not that they're expecting he's going to die, but I mean, it's not looking good. And that's just the reality of it. And he's starting to realize that he wants something, from his father. So I said, yeah, maybe we'll do something like that. So I started crafting it for him. And then I decided, you know what? He's not the first person who said to me, I would love to put together a collection of letters and videos and thoughts and ideas about my life for the people in my life so that someday when I'm gone, they have it. But I don't want to do it all. But I also don't want somebody else trying to interpret what my life is about. So I'm like, you know what? I'm a video guy. I'm a video editor. I'm a graphic guy. I put these things together for over 2.5 decades, these sorts of things. And I said, I'll do it. It's already part of my program, Legacy. And now I'll just do a kind of done for you deal where I put it all together. We interview virtually or in person if you're within a certain distance from me. And this way you can leave behind all your memories and messages and letters and ideas and stuff for the people that matter to you. And someday when you're gone, you can leave with just a little more peace, knowing that you left your voice. And so this is less of kind of like a biography of the person or an autobiography kind of deal. And it's much more a very personalized thing. Like, your daughter might receive her videos on a USB. Your son might receive his separate videos on a USB. Your wife might receive your handwritten letter and videos on a USB, something like that. And so I'm crafting it now. And I know you're in the death care business. And so I don't know if that's something that's up your alley, but once I start doing these and getting some examples, I would love to show them to you and see if it's something where you, if you decided it made sense to you, maybe can recommend to people, and then I handle all the stuff and you make money. So I know you're a man always looking to make money, and I know you're also a man of integrity. So I would show you what this would look like, and then if you felt that it, fit, then maybe you put it out to your community, and if you didn't, then that's fine, and we'll figure out what in what way we
Bobby.
will work together.
No, Bobby. I think what you said is good. So every Thursday, and you guys are both welcome. Hey, Mark, could you send them, or can I send them the necessary conversation flyer for tonight, so that yeah, send them both, or pin it, the flyer for tonight, October 31st, 4 o'clock, and then I'll put the Zoom link in the chat. So I know that the holidays on the holiday, it'll be 7 p.m. your time. Bobby, what time zone you're in? Did I lose Bobby?
You did.
Yeah, he must have hit a bad spot.
What were you
Now,
saying?
oh, there he goes. I said,
What do I need to
I'm
write?
gonna, I'm gonna send it to your back channel.
Hello. I lost
Okay.
all controls out of nowhere, Edward. They all disappeared, so I had to leave and come back. I am in
Bobby,
Eastern Standard.
Bobby, okay, but you have it, Bobby. You have the link in your back channel to the meeting. You see that? And Holiday, I think you have it too. Let me see if I sent it to you before. Yeah, you have it, Holiday. It says you are court. You see it? You are cordially invited. Yeah. So that's the link in there too. You should be able to click that link or take a picture of it and then get out of here, because that's the actual Zoom link. So tonight, 4 o'clock for 1 hour. And Bobby, what I do is when you get to the point, I want you to come in, listen, but when you get to the point that you have something that you could present, because these are families, people who come, our team invite families to come in, and I do a necessary conversation live seminar, and this could be one of the offerings, because all the families that come here is all advanced planning. So if someone wants to do that, eventually we can send them out. If you have a email list or you have a link or something where they can get a hold of you, so we could do something like that. So
yeah, and Edward, I love that. And maybe also for the legacy kit, if you're interested, because I don't think you have anything like that, right? You bring people together around a variety of things, and from what I've looked up with you, it doesn't seem like you do something like that. So I don't think we're in competition. So in terms of the legacy kit, I would love to send you one. Personally, I would like to send it to you as a gift so you can see what that looks like and feels like, so that you can feel a little more confident about even talking about it. But I would love to be in those spaces and give you and only present a link that's your affiliate link, so that you make money every time we sell them. So we're helping people and making money at the same time, which is a win-win for everybody.
Yeah, perfect. So what we'll do is like this, and we'll go through. Why don't we do this? Because on my dead talks, when we start inviting the whole community of the death care, I'll interview you live, and we can both be on camera, and you can actually unveil the box, show the box, everything. And when you do get a couple,
I love it.
When you get a couple examples of it, then we'll be able to, show a little video of people doing it in advance, as long as you get the permission of the family, and then we'll be good to go.
Yeah, sounds great.
So I think that right there, because we do have affiliates. Mark will tell you, I do affiliates with DNA to Diamonds. I do affiliate with Cremation Going into Space. I do affiliates like out here when we do scattering at sea. So I have affiliate with Eternal Reefs. So every time we present an Eternal Reef or someone wants to be scattered in the ocean, we get compensated for all those different things. Because a lot of people don't know all the different methods of cremation. So just different.
But I love that. And Edward, and I also want to add a side note. I love that you take us on your walks with you on video. It's fantastic, man.
I know.
5 miles of beautiful scenery. I love it.
Exactly. That's why I was saying to Holiday earlier that I can't do this, thank God I have a mark, someone who's stationary who could work the bot, because the other platforms I can actually walk and still do my little post, because they have it already set when they do share screen, but we don't have that yet. So, but right now we're gonna work it. All right,
Edward, I'm curious, real quick, what's your motivation for doing the walks? Do you just have a natural inclination toward good health in that way, or did something happen that kind of scared you into taking care of yourself? What was it?
No. Well, we were going to the gym, and then when the lockdown happened, they closed the gym. So I told my wife, well, we're gonna start walking. So she said, I'm gonna ride my bike. So after that, I started walking back in 2020, January of 2020. And I still have my gym pass. And then after that, I went to the gym one day, and they had this whole big thing of Pride back in 2020 with the Pride Month. And I talked to my gym. I sent them a letter. Then I canceled my gym membership. But my wife decided she's going to go to a different gym. So she goes to the gym now, and I do my walk. And that's how it happened. So I've been walking since 2020. I used to do the treadmill inside the gym, but now I just do it outside. So that's how it happened. No big secret.
Thanks for sharing, Edward.
Yeah, that was it. Just and now even my wife says, you get to go to the beach. And I said, no, babe, it was just by accident. I get to walk because we live only 3/4 of a mile from here. So it's pretty cool. And I like to brisk. I like being outdoors. And Bobby, so since you talk about health, since that time, I've actually lost 35 pounds. So that's a big benefit. So,
that's awesome, man. Congratulations.
Thanks. And I sleep better.
That's one healthy heart right there.
Yeah. So I sleep better, and all my levels are good. So it's also good. They said if you only walk 20 minutes a day, but I get to do an hour and 90 minutes, walk pretty briskly, and I also get to talk and chat. So, and I did this also on Periscope. I used to walk on Periscope, but I didn't walk as much. But people used to come out because I always did sunsets. So people on Periscope, they love the sunsets we did. So a couple of times a week here in Southern California, whether I was in Laguna Beach coming back, or I was in San Diego, or I was in Huntington Beach, I would stop and everybody would watch the sunset with us on Periscope and have television. And I thought that social visual was supposed to be people walking around and going and showing where they are. So that's why I use it this way.
I do walking with my clients for our weekly group coaching session. It's tonight on Thursdays. We walk together. So not everybody has to do it. It's not mandatory, but I encourage them. Hey, most of you guys don't walk a lot. So let's do it while we're meeting. And what's great about it too is new ideas come to mind. You're out of your usual scene. You think clearer, you think better, you're more at peace. And that extra blood flow and oxygen just gets the brain moving better. Obviously the heart's moving better, but the brain also is operating better, more efficiently, more clearly. You're more motivated when you're moving for some reason. And so I encourage my clients to do it. It's so good, man. I'm proud of you, man. That's freaking awesome. I don't know, because I don't know a lot of people that do that. It's just, I don't know people who prioritize good health like that and moving every day. So I just think that's amazing.
Well, I'm also 61, and my wife says, we have two grandbabies now. We do want more, but I want to watch my granddaughters and my future grandsons to grow up. So I don't want to be a 75, 80-year-old person who is immobile, and for me to be 61 and have a clear mind and, good judgment, good, like you said, a good, healthy heart, good circulation. I don't know how many 61-year-old, 62-year-old are still out, moving this much, but I think it's important. Get out. This is important. So part of character too. Plus, this is also my what I call my time of challenging myself. I can multitask, get a couple things accomplished at the same time, so it works well. So, Martin, are you ready? All right, go for it, my friend. This is the worldview in 5 minutes, and then right after that, we come back and gonna put up after that, Mark.
It's Reformation. It's Reformation Day, Thursday, October 31st, AD 2024. This is the Worldview in 5 minutes, written by Jonathan Clark and heard on 125 radio stations and at theworldview.com. I'm Adam McManus. China pledged support for Iran last week during the BRICS summit in Russia. BRICS is an intergovernmental organization comprised of the countries of Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. Other affiliated countries include Iran, Egypt, Ethiopia, and the United Arab Emirates. Chinese President Xi Jinping stated, quote, "No matter how the international and regional situation changes, China will unswervingly develop friendly cooperation with Iran," end quote. International Christian Concern warns, quote, "China and Iran are known persecutors of Christians, and their mutual support could lead to increased persecution as both countries work to eliminate the practice of Christianity within their borders," end quote. The Observatory of Religious Pluralism in Spain released a report on evangelical places of worship. There are 4,455 evangelical places of worship in Spain this year, up from 1,000 from 10 years ago. With atheism and agnosticism on the rise in the country, many religious groups are shrinking or just maintaining their numbers. Evangelicals, however, are among the few groups seeing growth in the historically Catholic nation. In the United States, transit workers won a $7 million lawsuit after being denied religious accommodations for the COVID shot during the pandemic. The Pacific Justice Institute represented the former employees of the San Francisco Bay Area Rapid Transit District. The public transit service provided no accommodations for the workers' religious exemption requests. Kevin Snyder, chief counsel with the Pacific Justice Institute, said, quote, "The rail employees chose to lose their livelihood rather than deny their faith. That in itself shows the sincerity and depth of their convictions. After nearly 3 years of struggle, these essential workers feel they were heard and understood by the jury and are overjoyed and relieved by the verdict," end quote. The U.S. Supreme Court sided with Virginia yesterday in the state's attempt to keep non-citizens from voting. Virginia officials had removed over 1,600 voter registrations of non-citizens over the last couple months. The Biden administration sued Virginia, and a federal court ordered many of the registrations reinstated. However, conservative justices on the Supreme Court granted an emergency appeal to Virginia's Republican administration. Virginia Attorney General Jason Miyares responded, quote, "I am pleased to announce that the U.S. Supreme Court granted Virginia's emergency stay to keep non-citizens off our voter rolls," end quote. The YouVersion Bible app has surpassed 800 million downloads globally. The app includes over 2,000 translations. Most downloads come from outside the United States, like in Africa, India, and Latin America. Bobby Grunwald, the founder of YouVersion, told CBN News that Bible engagement is growing around the world.
The narrative that people no longer read the Bible is simply not true. We have evidence and empirical data, real data, not just a survey that someone had somewhere, that indicates that there is momentum globally around scripture engagement. So we should be encouraged to know that God's word is very alive and well, and if anything, more relevant to today's culture than maybe ever before in human history.
Psalm 86, verse 9 says, "All nations whom you have made shall come and worship before you, O Lord, and shall glorify your name." Special thanks to the final two donors who helped the Pakistani Christian Orphanage. Since we had already raised $344.75, more than the cost to build the new $15,000 well at the Christian Orphanage in Pakistan. The $50 which Jennifer in San Jose, California gave, along with the $120 that Beth and her son Ben gave from Olympia, Washington, will be used toward Pastor Michael's monthly budget to feed, clothe, and educate the 85 orphans. To those who gave so sacrificially, thank you. And finally, happy Reformation Day. October 31st, 1517 was the day when Martin Luther, a Catholic priest, nailed the 95 Theses on the door of All Saints Church in Wittenberg, Germany, in which he listed the 95 ways the Roman Catholic Church had become corrupt. Chief among them was the selling of so-called indulgences, which were certificates which allegedly reduced someone's temporal punishment in purgatory for sins committed by the purchasers of their loved ones before they went to heaven. Needless to say, there is no biblical support for either a place called purgatory nor the ability to change one's eternal destination after death. Hebrews 9:27 says, "People are destined to die once, and after that, to face judgment." Little did Martin Luther know how the Lord would use him to ignite a movement, the Protestant Reformation, that would change the world. Watch a 2-hour dramatic film entitled Luther with your family. Plus, your children might enjoy a 34-minute animated film called The Martin Luther Story from Torchlighters. In addition, Ligonier Ministries has a free 90-minute documentary which you can stream, entitled Luther, The Life and Legacy of the German Reformer. Check out the 3 special links in our transcript today at theworldview.com. And that's The Worldview on this Thursday, October 31st, in the year of our Lord 2024. Subscribe by Amazon Music or by iTunes or email to our unique Christian newscast at theworldview.com, or get the Generations app through Google Play or the App Store. I'm Adam McManus. Seize the day for Jesus Christ.
Also share that with your friends. Look at the word of the day, guys. Hollow. Hollow. Okay? It says Describe something such as a memorial, considered holy or blessed, or something that is highly, what, see that? Respected and revered. Hollow. So very interesting that they chose that word on Halloween. That's why they picked it, I believe. Halloween, they put hollow. So just kind of interesting on how they did that twist for the word of the day. This is also from Merriam-Webster. So every day I do get a word of the day sent to my email. What I always encourage you to do, if you got a new word of the day, at the end of the year, you have 365 new words added to your vocabulary. So it does help. And what we always ask people is to try to use the word today in a sentence with someone. So throughout your day, you can go through and do that. Okay? Mark, if you're ready for the first video, we'll go from there. This video should be on character. And most of the videos we have, guys, will be 3 to 5 minutes. They're pretty brief because I want to make sure we have a lot more conversation, but you guys will see it.
Class of 2024. It is an honor to address you. Though I completed my formal education many years ago, I think there are some things that endure despite the passage of time. Courage is one of those things. As Winston Churchill wrote almost a century ago, courage is rightly esteemed the first of human qualities, because it is the quality which guarantees all others. In your young lives, you will face challenges, personal, professional, even spiritual. How will you deal with them? I encourage you to think of the people in your lives who have shown courage in the face of adversity and challenges. When I think of the people in my own life who demonstrated courage, I think first and foremost of my grandfather, the greatest man I've ever known. At the beginning of my career here in Washington, D.C., I sought his advice and counsel. It was during my first encounters with the onslaught of criticism and public attacks. I asked my grandfather how I should handle it. His words were as wise as they were pithy. Son, you have to stand up for what you believe in. Over the years, I have seen those who know what is right, but who are afraid to stand up when it will cost them. We all know it is right to stand up for a friend who's being bullied. But how many of us will choose to say nothing out of fear? It takes courage to do something despite the risk. No wonder my good friend Dennis Prager likes to say, courage is the rarest of human traits. Courage also comes into play as we deal with ourselves, with our problems or faults. It takes courage to be honest with ourselves. It is so much easier and convenient to blame our shortcomings or problems on someone or something else. It takes courage to be honest and to do as Alexander Solzhenitsyn said, live not by lies. Or put more positively, live a life of truth and honesty. From time to time, I have reflected on the people who were the most important in my own life and taught me much about courage. My grandparents are the first in my thoughts, but there are others. My nuns who taught me in school also had courage. They were honest to a fault and steadfast. These Irish immigrants had left their homeland and come to the segregated South to teach Black children. And for this, they were often subjected to vitriol. It took courage to step into a classroom with 40 mostly poor Black children and get them to learn and to believe that they could learn and that there was a reason to do so. One of these nuns, my 8th grade teacher, terrified me as a student, but became a very dear friend in my adult life. She passed away at the age of 100. I once asked her how she and her fellow nuns were able to get us to do so many difficult things. She said, without hesitation, because we lived with you and you knew we loved you. She never would have described herself as courageous, but she was. Throughout history, people have had to find those principles, beliefs, or people for whom they were willing to die. Then in turn, for which and for whom they were willing to live. I think of those who fight our wars, respond to our emergencies, or who work difficult and taxing jobs to care for their families. In that vein, I also think of how my grandparents willingly sacrificed so that my brother and I could live and prosper. Without complaint, they found that quiet courage to take on a commitment that would consume the remainder of their lives and much of their quite modest resources. It is profoundly humbling to think of what they did and the constant courage it required. Is there anything for which you would go through that much difficulty? Do you have the will and the courage to prepare educationally, morally, and intellectually to address the myriad challenges that you will face? In this world of social media and shaming and other personal attacks, will you have the courage of your convictions to stand up for what you believe in? There are challenges coming your way, as I've so often had to do in my own life. I pray that each of you will have the wisdom to know what is right and the courage to do it. I'm Clarence Thomas, Associate Justice of the Supreme Court of the United States for Prager University.
This movie, Bobby or Holiday Mark?
No, I have not.
You
I have
got you
not
got to
either.
go. Yeah, you got to look at it. Just go and pull it up and look at his life and how he started out and how his grandparents raised him. I mean, and talk about the it's called Clarence Thomas. Clarence Thomas. That's the Chief Justice on the Supreme Court. But what do you guys hear there? In the face of social media, in the face of even being on Chatter, in a world where everything is moving so rapidly. I'm 61, guys, and I keep saying, how many voices do we have today? And are these voices credible? And do we have the courage to say to Big Pharma, no, we're not going to take a shot just because you tell us? Or do we say no to our government? Do we have the courage to really have convictions over what we believe? Because it says we hold these truths to be self-evident. So if I am a person who's supposed to hold my truth to be self-evident, should I not have that right? Do someone get to deny me the right of me holding my own self accountable for my own behavior? And if I choose not to do something, what gives you the right to want to force me to do it? Does that make sense, everyone? Did I lose you guys?
It makes absolute sense to me. Yes, Edward, I'm totally on board. And I do think courage has decreased significantly in the world, and especially in America, where courage is absolutely necessary because these freedoms don't just, they were given by God and they were there, but people can easily take them away from you, as we learned. That's the very basis of our founding. And a lot of people seem today to have been so softened up in this state of false security and false comfort with all our modern conveniences. I mean, you don't have to hunt for food anymore or gather food. You just go to the supermarket and there it is. The chicken's already been grown and killed for you. The nuts have been collected for you. The fruits have been harvested. Everything's there. Now it's all, much of it, not all, but much of it is poisonous and toxic. So that's a whole different layer. But generally speaking, the motivation and drive we have to protect ourselves and secure our rights and freedom it's just so easy now to get caught up in your phone and the convenience of everything that people have become very complacent. And when things happen, they have learned to quickly find a distraction to hide from the seriousness of that thing. And that's a big concern for me because people would rather have those conveniences, which is understandable for a human race that throughout all of history has had to work so hard to survive and build and thrive, that now we're at this point where things are so quote unquote easy, even though it's actually not easy, right? We're less healthy and happy than we've ever been, less fulfilled than we've ever been. And yet we have all these things, but that's another point for another day. It's so easy that people don't want to lose that. And so when they're challenged by the people who have weaseled their way into power and weaseled their way into power structures, that when those people use those structures against us, and we know that they can potentially, flip your entire life upside down, or at least make things a lot harder for you. A lot of people don't have enough resilience built up through their life, through living through difficult times, now more than ever. And so when tough times come, they seek security, and they seek their security blanket, and they seek their little, bubble, and they crawl in the corner and they say, just distract me from the discomfort. Distract me from it. I don't want to fight. I don't want to stand up. I don't, this is too tough. I don't want to lose my job. I don't want to lose my pension. I don't want to lose my sense of that everybody leaves me alone. And a lot of people also have a false sense of what it means to stand up. They think going on social media, and this is for everybody, I mean, myself included, sometimes we go on social media and we post our opinions and ideas, and we feel a false sense of accomplishment, like we did anything. In many cases, we did absolutely nothing and didn't move the needle at all in the direction of standing up for something, but we feel like we did because we posted something. People used to actually stand up in the real world and go take real action that had real impact. And nowadays, it just seems more and more like they're okay and good enough with just a quick, Facebook post or a quick X post. And all of a sudden, they're like, I did it. I said what I had to say. Meanwhile, for most people, nobody saw it. Right. And anybody who did see it probably already agrees with you. So there's really very little courage. We have a false sense of a lot of things. And I would love to see us get back to, get back to understanding that with the responsibility of having personal autonomy and freedom and free will also comes the responsibility to take action, especially when it's action to stand up for something that you believe to be so important and so true that you have to stand up for it. It's the only way to help it along. And by the way, as a side note, this election is one of those things. This current election coming up is one of those things. And I will be very interested to see, for those who are acutely aware, like some of us are, of some of the election integrity issues that are already occurring. I want to see if we're ready and willing to stand up for this democracy that we all seem to claim is so important to us. Not that it's a democracy, but the democratic principle of voting, because we're a republic. The democratic principle of voting is going to require that people stand up for a legitimate, fair election system. And there's already signs that we're having problems with that. So let's see how courageous everyone is, Edward, because this is the next test. You love democracy so much. Let's see if you're willing to stand up for it. So far, it seems that most people are not.
Yeah, I agree with you. I tend to think that where we are today, especially with the current status quo of election integrity, that we actually have poll workers who are actually working the polls who don't have enough courage to be neutral. We got people cutting lines or shutting lines down at 1:45, but it's supposed to be closed at 4:30. We got people, just happened in Michigan, where they try to submit 180,000 votes that were already cast. They tried to do it a second time, but they got caught. Until someone gets arrested, and then not only get arrested, but the put in it, we're going to still have people who want to be reckless. So, but I am encouraged in a lot of ways that a lot of the people in 2024 have decided to stand up for what they believe in and why. Like someone said to me the other day, well, you're voting for a person who's a criminal. I said, well, it's kind of interesting that you said that he was a criminal. I don't know if you know, but the people who sign our Bill of Rights and the ones who signed our Constitution, do you know they went against the king, King George III? So they were also considered treasonous to the United Kingdom. So, and when we say criminal, we say that we're going to go back years and years and years when he wasn't president of the United States to try to put something on him, which is kind of interesting because people really don't want to be honest with themselves because until we as Americans understand that this is our country and the power lies in our hands, we're going to continue to rely on individuals that we think is going to make our lives better. And the last I checked, the only person responsible for Edward is Edward. And that's how I see it. Ms. Holiday, you want to share anything before we play the next video? I know
Yeah,
you're working.
I
Go ahead.
did. Hold on one second. I wanted to give you a little update on Pennsylvania. So this will be the first time I'm voting here in this actual city that I live in. I voted in Lansdale in the last presidential election, which was a different city. But first of all, I think I told you guys the other day that I've seen so many signs, like people are really involved in this election here in Pennsylvania, and it's almost like it's hilarious. You'll see one person, who has a lot of land, and they'll put, like, not exaggerating, 50 to 75 signs up, different ones, different sizes, flags. Some of them are like hilarious. And then right either on the other side of the street or on the same street next house, that there's some Harris signs, but they haven't gone to the same lengths, I guess, as the Trump supporter. So I found that interesting. And then I read an article yesterday that said 345 Montgomery County, that's the county that I live in, that Philadelphia is in, ballots have errors. Check your signature here. And one of the parts in it says common errors on mail-in ballots include naked ballots, missing the secrecy envelope, a lack of signature, damage to the paper, the wrong date, and issues with voter registration status. Making this list public is a new step by Montgomery County and is something no other Pennsylvania county has done before. I also learned this election that I wanted to try to go vote early, but I will only vote in person. I refuse to do a mail-in ballot, and I've never done an absentee ballot. And you cannot vote early in person in Montgomery County. I have to, if you want to vote in person, you have to go out on election day. So that's what I'm going to do. But I found that interesting because I've lived in two other states at least that I could vote early in person before election day. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah, no, isn't it interesting that we have these elected officials or the legislators seem like they're making it very difficult to even want to vote, And why? Is power more important than purpose? I thought that they wanted the people to choose who they want to represent them. So why are so many people fighting? And you guys, correct me if I'm wrong, all of these, what I call issues, do you guys notice states? I don't hear any red states having any of these issues. Why is that happening? Just curious. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. All these blue states are having all these issues. Go ahead.
Georgia last election had a bunch of issues, and that's considered a red state. Or
yeah, you're correct.
Yeah, it's a little more purple now
But-
because of Atlanta and maybe in Savannah. But yeah, I hear you. But I kind of disagree with what you just said about they're making voting more difficult. I think they're trying to make it easier ever since the pandemic, where they want everybody to mail in their ballot. Everybody. And that's easy as heck. You sit on your couch, you fill it out. And then depending on your state, like in my state, you have to go drop it off at some ballot box or some center, and hand it to a human, or you can drop it off on election day in person, at the voting places. But in other states, you just drop it at all these, ballots, boxes all over the country and such. So to me, that's making it easy. I personally feel that voting shouldn't be so easy that you either do it on your couch, on your phone, or mail-in ballot. I really think, and maybe I'm old-fashioned, that it's a privilege. People ought to get off their ass, get in the car or take the bus, whatever it is they have to do, get a friend to pick them up, and stand in line, even though it's a pain in the ass sometimes in certain places, and cast your vote. I mean, call me crazy, but I think that will keep it more
No,
secure,
Holiday.
you know?
I agree with you. What I meant by easy, like you said, I think that because they used this in the 2020 election where they had the mail-in ballots, that's never happened in our elections. Okay, that's what I meant. I think there's more nefarious things that can happen when you do these things. Like you said, people sit at home, they don't even know if they're the person who's filling out the ballot, if they're doing it correctly. Some people having their kids fill out the ballot. This is the kind of stuff that's really, really bad for me. That's what I meant by they're making it harder for us to get accurate counts versus making it easier for people just to do whatever they want. That's what I meant. So I
Okay,
clarify that for you. I clarify that because
gotcha.
I agree with you. I've always gone in, my wife and I always gone in on the day of election and we voted that day. We got our sticker. We know that we voted. Our polls open at 7 a.m. before work started. We would usually be in line by 6:30 because we know the line was going to be long. And we got there, we cast our vote. So, and now this time here in California, we decided to walk in and we did our voting much earlier. We just walked in, filled out the paperwork, signed everything, and they checked our records to make sure that we were registered in the city and county that we live in, and we cast our vote in person. But we did it early because we wanted to bank our vote. And then we can go online here in our county and check and see, yes, our vote was registered. And I don't think that enough Americans do that. They don't follow up and check to see if their vote actually got registered.
100%. I don't think they do either. I never have, but I've never been in a place where I could do that until recently. So I hear you.
Yeah.
And I
So,
Well, I want to. Oh,
I
go
used
ahead, Ality.
sorry, I'll just finish. I used to vote early in person in Florida when I lived in Florida. And I didn't, think twice about it. And I wouldn't if the pandemic hadn't happened. But I almost feel like when we cast our votes early, whether it's in person or mail in ballot, that there's just a greater chance for it to be manipulated. But like you said, Edward, there's a layer of transparency now for some places that at least you can check your vote. But they're banking on too many people won't do that. I mean, people don't verify anything, it seems. It's so sad.
yeah. Go ahead, Bobby.
Yeah, I just wanted to share that, the thing that's so disconcerting about this is that there's a side of the political sphere that calls out the word democracy in America. They call it out and they never say republic, of course. Right? It's always democracy, 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 democracy. And I get it. Even Trump says democracy. They all say democracy. But this sort of key element of democracy is that the people vote, right? So you would imagine that that's sacred, especially when you're a group of people or a politically aligned side of the spectrum that constantly says it. Constantly, it's about protecting the democracy, threats to democracy, protect the democracy, democracy, democracy. And I hear it so much, and I'm like, do you even know what that means? Does democracy mean something else than what I know it to mean? Because if it meant so much to these people, then they would believe that even if the outcome is different from what they want, that is what democracy is supposed to be. But increasingly so, what they actually mean by democracy is a system that gives them the outcome they want. Because it's manipulated, it's toyed with, it's played with. They don't mean when they say democracy. And I truly believe, sometimes I wonder, I'm going to put something out there. Sometimes I wonder if there's a dictionary or an encyclopedia that the sort of these insiders, these Washington establishment type words that we use every day into a secret meaning that we don't know. I feel like when they say democracy, they're really saying their power structure, right? Protect their power structure, secure their power structure. Somebody is a threat to their power structure. because they don't actually want democracy. Democracy means you respect that if the will of the people is something you don't desire, that you're okay with that because at least the people chose that. Increasingly, though, it looks like what they mean by democracy is actually that the outcome comes out their way and they'll do anything they have to do it. They'll break the law, they'll change systems and mechanics, they'll do things that seem totally outrageous to reasonable people, things like you shouldn't have to prove you're an American citizen with an ID. We all know already, we've heard all the talking points from all sides, but only one of them is legitimate, that you need an ID to do just about anything else. It's so important when you go to an airport that we make sure that your plane ticket is the person you say you are. That's how sacred it is. There's security. You have to get checked, right? You have to have walk through an X-ray machine, and you got to get body scanned, and you got to have all your stuff checked to go on an airplane. To go on an airplane, that's sacred. That's important. So we make sure to check everyone out. Make sure you are who you say you are. But with elections, we don't protect people. We don't protect the system to make sure that the outcome is legitimate. It's crazy to me, and I think that it shows that there's a lot of disingenuousness when it comes to when some people say it. So I don't even take them seriously, and I call them out directly on it because I believe in truth, and I do believe in integrity. And Edward, you talked about courage. I do believe in courage, and I think courage means you're gonna, for lack of a better term, guys, well, let me keep it clean. You're gonna anger your friends from time to time. You're going to annoy your friends. You're going to lose friends. You're going to lose family. You know what, though? Stand up for the truth. And here's the truth. You don't care about democracy or elections. You don't care about the will of the people if you don't believe that people should show who they are. Because at the same time, I have to do that at an airport, in a bank, to go to a freaking concert sometimes, depending on what the place is, to walk into a bar. Those things are so sacred that I need an ID, but our elections aren't. They actually are trying to make it easier to vote, but only easier to vote when it's going to lead them to the outcome they want or allows them to manipulate more, right? Because they're making it harder to vote in person, where you can almost guarantee that what you say you're voting for is what you're voting for, but make it easier to vote by mail or other means because it's harder for you to track and trace that your vote ended up where it was supposed to go. And so they're making it easier to vote illegitimately or in a way that can be manipulated, harder to vote the legitimate way that can be tracked and traced and verified. And even so, amidst all that, on machines that you have no idea what's happening inside the machine. So, I mean, we just live in crazy times. I don't take anyone seriously who in the same breath says democracy and then also says, but we don't need to secure the system and make sure it's legit. That's insane to me, insanity. Now, the reason we're getting into this, the reason we even started talking about election integrity is we're talking about courage. And one of the most timely examples of courage right now, in my view, as I just look at the landscape around me, I look at people, I look at what people are saying and doing, it's our election. Because it takes real courage to stand up and say, something's not right. We want it to be fair, even if the outcome isn't what I want it to be. But, a certain political candidate is such a threat to democracy that we need to upend democracy in order to make sure he doesn't get in power. That's crazy. And, it takes courage to stand up, guys. I speak up anytime I can, even at the risk of losing business, right? Somebody might not want to sign on with me as a client. Somebody might not want their teenager joining my confidence classes online. Somebody might not want to get involved with me in some way because of it. Luckily, I've never had that happen vocally or publicly. Nobody's ever said that. But I imagine it happens, and I do it anyway. You know why? Because truth is more important to me than anything. And I'm going to speak it, even if there's a risk to me. And that's the whole point, I think, that Edward was making. And so I appreciated that.
I think that's very valuable. And thank you for sharing. And courage is important, guys. I think I'm going to do that on X today. What is courage in 2024? I think that'd be a good space on X. All right, Mark, the next video. But you want to put up the scripture of the day first? The scripture of the day and then the next video. right in order. You guys, Inside Out Living, Foundations for Freedom. There you guys go. So whether you eat or drink or whatever you do it for the glory of God. 1 Corinthians 10:31. That's what we do. Next video.
Write it down. The foundation of leadership is character. This statement sounds very simple, but it's not. Write it down. The foundation of leadership is character. This statement sounds very simple, but it's not. I didn't say that the roof of leadership is character. I didn't say the windows and the walls of your life is character. I said the foundation of your leadership is character. So I want to remind you of what character is. If you may, you can record it. Character is a commitment to a set of values without compromise. When Joseph was tested, he had to decide whether he valued lust and pleasure more than prison. Joseph chose prison. Pleasure and prison both begin with P. You got to decide which P is more important in your life. Which P is your priority? Pleasure, or are you going to pursue this simple, powerful essence of principle? Number two, character is dedication to a set of standards without wavering. Samson didn't survive. His standards collapsed under the weight of lust. He lost the most important thing a human being can possess, and that is a character that has moral force. Number three, character is self-imposed discipline in keeping with moral convictions. Notice the term self-imposed. Nobody made Joseph run, and nobody made Samson stay. It's always up to you. You are the creator of your own character. Discipline is self-imposition. I am coming to the conclusion very slowly in my years of dealing with leadership issues that conviction is really the key to leadership. It's conviction. I never thought I would come to such a simple conclusion, because you can actually discover your purpose and still not be convicted enough to pursue it. It is conviction that sends people to prison. It is conviction that makes people run from pleasure. It is conviction that creates character. Number four, character is a constant effort to integrate your words, your deeds, and your actions. I showed you in the evening session an illustrator of the two men who were one man, and how the process is to bring those two men together until there's only one man. You want to integrate your words. When you say something, you actually do it. And you do it because you are it. And number five, character is the willingness to sacrifice your pleasure for the sake of principles. So character is basically being one with yourself. By the way, I don't have time to get into this, but in my book on character, I talk about the fact that God is God because he is character. You know, the Hebraic concept of God, when they describe God, they concluded one word: God is one. Now, some of you have no idea what that means. And if you speak to a Jewish scholar right now, he will tell you that that is the most important quality of God. God is one. He is integrated. Would you believe, write this down, the word holy actually means one. Holy means one. We use terms like pure, we use terms like sanctified, but no, it actually means one. It means there's no dichotomy in the person. It means that the person is so pure, there's no ulterior elements. You know, there are people who you know who have ulterior motive. These are dangerous people. A person with ulterior motives is a person without character. So to be one means that you have arrived at a point of what we call holiness. And don't tell me that is not possible, because someone said 2,000 years ago, be holy like your Father in heaven is. He will never command what's not possible. You should never be two people, and most people are. Matter of fact, your greatest battle is between you and your other self. And the more your secret self can become public, you become closer to character.
Peace, peace, peace.
Peace. Good to see. Good to see. Good to see you. We just finished that one on character. We're talking about character today. Inside Out Living, the foundation of freedom. What values do we have? What are our convictions? So, just having that. So, Mark, could you put up the encouragement of the day? The encouragement of the day, and then you could play the last video, and then we'll be pretty good there. And then we could just have a chat. Do what you can with what you have, where you are. Thank you. You can go ahead and play that last clip, and then we can go ahead and have a little discussion. And please, everyone, share the space.
Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness is the shared goal of every American. The U.S. Constitution was written to make it possible. We all have a pretty good idea about what life and liberty mean, but what about the last part of the phrase, the pursuit of happiness? That's a little harder to pin down. Let's give it a try. The 17th century English philosopher John Locke spoke narrowly of the rights to life, liberty, and property. The Declaration of Independence widened the scope to something far grander, the quest for what Aristotle termed the true end of all human endeavor, happiness itself. We think today of happiness in relativistic terms, something each person pursues in their own way. For example, in Shakespeare's Hamlet, Polonius advises Laertes, "To thine own self be true." In other words, be yourself. We hear this a lot today. To John Adams, America's second president and a seminal figure in the creation of the country, this was bad advice. For Adams and the founders generally, happiness was a modus vivendi, a way of living expressed by how one conducted oneself, especially in public. Adams understood that people are an imperfect amalgam of the admirable and the abominable. that being yourself does not automatically lead to good character. It's more likely, in fact, to lead to self-absorption. The only way to attain a good character is, like everything else, to work at it. The best way to do this, Adams contended, was literally to imagine a noble character. Here we're talking about character like a character in a play, and then strive to become that character. Walk like that character, think like him, feel like him, act like him. Over time, through the result of continual effort and the slow working of habit, one can become that person. Adams practiced what he preached. In this way, he became a public figure, both incorruptible and unfailingly honest. He became the best version of himself. This takes us back to the founders' conception of happiness. They subscribed to the Aristotelian belief that genuine happiness is achieved when the activity of the soul is in perfect harmony with virtue. None of the founders reflected on this idea more than John Adams. Not only did he want his own life to be defined by virtue, he also wanted the infant republic to be built on it. Without virtue, he believed, America could not succeed. Today, the term virtue seems anachronistic, a notion from the past. But to Adams, America's survival as a free country depended on it. The preservation of liberty, he wrote, depends on the intellectual and moral character of the people. As long as knowledge and virtue are diffused generally among the body of a nation, it is impossible they should be enslaved. In a monarchy, Adams noted, the people don't need virtue. They can be as vicious and foolish as they please because all political responsibility lies in the hands of the king and his retinue. In a republic, however, the people are the government, so the virtue of the state is a reflection of the virtue of the people. Given that human nature is deeply flawed, this created an obvious problem of which Adams was painfully aware. I have seen all along my life, he observed, such selfishness and littleness that I sometimes tremble to think that although we are engaged in the best cause that ever employed the human heart, the prospect of success is doubtful, not for want of power or of wisdom, but of virtue. How could the new nation develop a virtuous citizenry? A devout Christian with enormous respect for the Jews and the Hebrew Bible, Adams certainly saw belief in God and fear of his judgment as indispensable. So was a proper education. But he did not think that these were enough. A virtuous government would also be necessary. Here's where a clearly delineated and easily understood constitution would be essential, and no one worked harder than Adams to create one. His focus was to give citizens the ability to thwart the conniving, corrupt, power-lusting politicians for which he had so much contempt. Once identified, they could simply be voted out of office and better people could take their place. Additionally, good government would attract good people, capable leaders whose ambition could be enlisted on the side of virtue. Arguably, we are a long way from having the kind of leaders elected by the kind of people that Adams wanted the American constitutional system to help create. And we are more likely to think of pursuing happiness in narcissistic terms than in the way Adams and the founders perceived it. Perhaps it is only by reflecting on our political problems as a reflection of flawed human nature and on Adams' proposed remedies, beginning with the development of good character in each citizen, that America has a chance of finding its way back to the path on which the founders so wisely and deliberately placed us. I'm Dinesh D'Souza for Prager University.
This video.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Mark. Appreciate it. So you guys could see here the fact that most people today, virtue is a very unique concept. Virtue is a very unique place to be. Virtue is very hard to apply when we're talking about our leadership or us as individuals. What is courage? What is virtue? What is conviction? 2024, I think a lot of us are going to get to see that and hear that, of who we really are and what virtue is standing up for what is right. And I don't know if we really have many leaders today of virtue. I think we have leaders. I don't think they're leaders of virtue. I think they're leaders of convenience. They want what's what. They want to tell you and me what we can and cannot do. Is it a virtue to tell someone that they have a right to commit crime, like defunding the police? Or is it a virtue to tell someone not to obey their parents? Like you got little children who are going to class today where people are actually, telling them that you don't have to listen to your parents. If you want to be something that you're not, you can be. You want to be a boy and you're a girl? Go ahead. You want to be a girl and you want to be a girl, you're a boy? Go ahead. Without your parents' consent. Is that virtuous? Is that us really being honest with those around us? Just a question. I think it's very interesting that we have these things happening in our society, but at the end of the day, I think we got to be extremely careful at how people are, Everyone doesn't think of virtue that way. And I like that our founding fathers thought of morality. What is morally correct? Now, to me, that value is extremely important. A lot of people don't like that value. That value to me is extremely important. The moral value of life. But as we move forward, we're going to learn it. Foundation for Freedom. Inside Out Living. This is Thursday, October 31st, 2024. We're just having a nice conversation around the values and the convictions of us as individuals. And if people do not have this kind of clarity, how do we get that clarity? How do we start it? What do we say? I think these things are beautiful. All right. So, Ms. Holiday, do you have anything else you want to share? I know you told me you had a call to take. So she may still be on her call, Mark. We go up. So Mark, I saw the precept. Put the precept up again. I'm gonna read the precept, and then I'll read the principle of the day, and then you'll be free to go, and I'll be free to go, and we got a good timing. So the precept of the day, everybody. Remember a time when the golden rule was not my motto in precept, the torch that guided my footsteps. Very, very important. What guides us? What's the character? For me, it's a biblical responsibility. Me being a person who wants to practice the word and apply the word to my life, the practice of righteousness to the best of our ability. So that's the key. And then you got the principle of the day, Mark. Here, guys, the principle. It says, always vote for principle. Though you may vote alone, and you may cherish the sweetest reflection that your vote is never lost. Never, ever, ever lost. That's the beauty. So, but I do appreciate everybody coming through today. And Mark, thank you so much for your assistance. Holiday, I know that you are there, but we're going to go ahead and close down this room for today, and we'll be back tomorrow for Facts Friday.